Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Enough channel. In this video we're going to do our tops, chops, traps and slaps for NRL SuperCoach in round 14 of the 2024 season. So an interesting, time. First Origin just came and gone last night. Good win to Queensland. I guess a bit of a foregone conclusion with New South Wales losing a man so early. But they did put a big target on Reece Walsh's head, and that is the risk that goes with, trying to rattle the opposition. Is if it doesn't work out, that you could be playing with less than 13. So I think it was maybe a slightly harsh decision, maybe sin bin, given that it was Origin, but in NRL land that was definitely a send off. So I guess the refs are somewhat consistent in that sense. But we're not here to discuss Origin and the tackle, but we're here to discuss the tops, which are the trading options that we like this week, the chops, which are the trade out options that we are comfortable with this week, the traps, so those that are being traded in that we think you should avoid, and the slaps, which are those being traded out that we should probably hang on to. So, starting at hooker, and I have flip-flopped here. I've gone with Brendan Hands once again as the top pick this week. So the Eels obviously look quite good with the big guns in Moses and Gutho back in the side. In saying that, I was still drifting towards Api Coruscant, but after last night's Origin performance, there's been a bit of chat about how they weren't very dynamic in attack. So there is a good chance that maybe Api Coruscant finds his way back into the Sky Blue squad. I don't think Reece Robson played himself out of a jersey. I just think they may want to, run with a backup hooker that can inject a bit of energy off the bench, perhaps. So for that reason, I'm going to look at Hands as the top option this week. So Joey Lussick is the most popular trade out and absolutely makes sense. He's not in the team, and it looks like, while the Eels are winning, it'll be Brendan Hands. Excuse me. May have been some people who hung on, a bit like myself, hoping to trade to Coruscant this week. But as you can see, I do have him as the trap. Obviously, he is a good pick if you wanted to bring him in. But there is just that risk now that he won't be available in round 16 or 19. Brendan Hands isn't available in round 16, by the way. The Eels are on the bye that week. But from memory, aside from that, their bye coverage is fairly good. I think maybe round 20 or something is their last bye. So they cover round 19. Excuse me. Or it may just be the case of if, we get to round 16, we see Appy's not in the squad, they decide to go with an outside back like a Matt Burton on the bench. They do have Cam McInnes that can cover hooker, I suppose. So they may sort of stick with that structure. In which case, we can potentially do that trade then. And obviously, by that time, Hands will be a bit closer in price to Coruscant. But the slap, I've gone with Jeremy Marshall-King. So obviously on the bye this week. But, we've pumped up how good the Dolphins' bye coverage is all pre-season or pre-origin. So don't trade him out this week just because he's on the bye. Hold him. He'll play 16, 19, round 17, and round 20. So, he covers the rest of the buys, which is really handy to have as well. So, you could have gone him last week instead of Coruscant, but I guess I was trying to, go a bit differential. But now I'm thinking, it might be take the money on offer from Hands and then, work it out down the track. Into the front row, and the topic this week is Anthony Blake. So the Warriors, cover round 16 and 17. They do have the bye in round 19, but they will cover round 20, which can be a bit tricky as well. But in all reality, Payne Haas and Anthony Blake, easily top two front rowers. You want to have them both by the end of the year. So, this sort of run that the Warriors have is the time, if you haven't already done so, to get on Fanua Blake. On the chopping block, I've gone with Sam Hughes. So, haven't been big on trading out Bulldogs assets due to their bye coverage. However, Sam Hughes' role has changed. It looks like he very much just comes in as the bigger body, absorbs the pressure in that first 20-minute stint. And then the Bulldogs bring on the likes of Kurt Mann, Curtis Moran, these sort of small middle forwards. But I guess what they're trying to do is, use their footwork and their sort of extra athleticism, to pull teams apart. And the last couple of weeks, the Dragons, the Knights, probably bigger forward packs, they've absolutely taken advantage of that. So for that reason, I think you can comfortably chop Sam Hughes. The trap this week, I've gone with Liam Henry. It's obviously a great outcome for him last week, but he was playing on the edge for a lot of it. Played big minutes, scored a try, which obviously helps. So the break even looks nice. The price is decent, but the Panthers will have the buy in round 16 and round 19. So you know, he won't really cover those rounds. And, if you're bringing in Fanua Blake, you've got Payne Haas, you probably won't be using him on field too often. So it's probably just a waste of a trade because you'll want to, use that money later on in the season. And the slap, and I don't think this is a lot of the top players trading this player out, but he did pop up in the top sort of list of front rowers being traded out. It was Tom Flegler, and that was super confusing because he's been out for a few weeks with injury. The Dolphins are on bye this week, but he is scheduled to actually come back in round 15. So my thought is if you've hung on to him this long, I don't see the point in trading him out. Even if he does come back in round 15, you'd imagine, given the result last night, that Queensland won't tamper with their team too much. Um, as much as Flegler would slot straight into that team pretty comfortably, I think they'll show faith and go again with the same crew. Um, so for that reason, I think, Tommy Flegler could play round 16. So if you've got him, just hang on to him. Into the second row, and I couldn't split them in the end, so I've put them both in. I think maybe slightly I've got Dave Fafita ahead just because we know his upside. But Eli Katoa is another one that's slightly cheaper, has a slightly nicer break even. So I can absolutely see, the upside in bringing in either of those second rowers if you don't already have so. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. Angus Crichton, I've got on the chopping block just because of the bye this week. He stood up and played pretty well for New South Wales, all things considered. Particularly when they swapped Stephen Crichton over, he locked down that left edge pretty comfortably alongside Tyre. I think, was it Ola Kawatu might have drifted over there or Hudson Young. It was a bit hard to follow the sort of forward rotations there for New South Wales, but yeah, he definitely didn't disgrace himself. You'd imagine he'll be straight in the team for game two. So he won't play 16. So for that reason, we can use that cash. As I said, you can get in one of these big hitters that will, do the business for you over the next few weeks. The trap this week, I've gone with Ken Kalamatangi. I probably butchered his first name there. Apologies for that. But classic example of people chasing, well, not last week's points, but 2 weeks ago when he last played, he scored 2 tries, which I think are his only 2 tries for the season. Looking at his stats, he's only had 2 games where he scored a line break. Oh, wait, sorry, he hasn't scored, but he's achieved the line break. And those are the 2 games where he hasn't, where he has scored over 50 rather. So he chances are, the numbers suggest that he's going to just punch out 50s. Souths do have decent buy coverage. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that he'll make a little bit of money, but then he'll just revert to scoring 50s, and we can probably do better in the second row. And the slap this week, and this is probably the least confident slap pick I've got in the video, but Morgan Smithies. Um, the only sort of arguments I can put forward to keep him is he will play round 16 and round 17, which is going to be handy for numbers. He's not going to score a lot of points, but there's always a chance he could find his way over the try line. And that's what we're sort of hoping for, is he can jag a rare attacking stat. But don't bank on it. Don't bring him in if you haven't got him. He's not worth a trade in. I'm just thinking, out of all the options that we've got, um, there's probably other options that are, like Angus Crichton, who are going to play a bit less over the next few weeks. Um, so, we do have to balance the upside with, having actually players on field. Into the halves, and I've gone with Jerome Hughes as the top pick this week. Although with that break even of 117, there is an argument that his halves partner Tyron Wishart is also a good shout to bring in at halfback. I guess Jerome Hughes just has probably the runs on the board in terms of a history of being able to score well. So for that reason, I think he is the top one to target. I've got Nico Hines on the chopping block, so at that price with that break even, he's not playing this week. Even if they shake up the New South Wales team, he won't play round 16. So he's definitely one that you can get out of for a few weeks and then bring him back in at that discounted rate. The trap, I've gone with Mitchell Moses, and again, this sort of ties in with Nico Hines. Off the back of the performance, and I guess sort of Appy Coruscant is another example of this. They may look for someone who's got a bit more of an expansive kicking game, which obviously Mitchell Moses would be the number two candidate after Nathan Cleary in that department. Um, so I think that's the only thing that would stop me from bringing him in, is the chance that he could actually be playing for New South Wales in round 16, although he would be on the bye anyway, so it probably wouldn't be of much use to us then. So you add that all up, and I think Moses is an avoid for the time being. And the slap, I've gone with Sean Johnson, so obviously we were hoping he'd be back this week. Sounds like he's 1 week away. Hopefully it's not a case of every week is 1 week away for SJ. But I think we'll keep the faith and hold, because he will cover around 16 and 17. And personally, I'd probably have him over Jerome Hughes, but Hughes is playing this week. SJ is not. Under the 5/8, and I guess if you don't already have him, I think Lockie Galvin is almost the buy of the week. I think he's only 40% owned, which means the majority of the competition don't have him. But he's looked really good for the Tigers. Still got a zero break even, so there's still a bit of value in that price. And we've talked about the Tigers' awesome buy coverage from here right through to round 26. So get on Lockie Galvin if you haven't already got him. Ethan Strange is on the chopping block, so the most popular trade out option among 5/8s, and I can understand he's done his bit for us. He's made 250k, but the break evens are up there with the average, so he doesn't play this week. I mean, you can park him on your centre wing bench potentially with the dual position is handy, but if you wanted to cut him, I don't think there's any harm in doing that. The trap this week, I've gone with Cody Walker, so a pretty popular trade-in. Given South do have a nice run, I think their only buy is around 17 in amongst the Origin period, or for the rest of the Origin period, I should say, which is handy. Alongside, I think it's the Titans and maybe the Dragons from memory, something like that. So you don't want to target too many of those players from those three teams together, because you'll come a run aground in round 17. But I guess at the price, you can get Lockie Galvin for the same price, who has a stronger break even and probably has stronger form this year, if we're being honest. I am intrigued to see how the partnership with Jack White works in the halves. I think that makes the most sense for the Rabbitohs, rather than trying to plug a rookie like Tauper in that's about fourth choice as halfback. Um, so Cody Walker I think is the trap this week, but I can understand why people would look at him. And the slap, I've gone with Max Plath, so probably more people have him in the second row, for being honest. But playing lock forward, big minutes, decent break even still. Dolphins by coverage. It just doesn't make sense to give him the chop because you can definitely use him in the next 6 weeks or so. Under the centre wing and the top pick this week, I've gone with Ruben Garrick. So Seagulls have pretty good buy coverage, as I said before. I think round 17 they miss out. Also, I think they're the ones with the Titans and the Rabbitohs, the Seagulls. Have the buy in round 17, but then we'll cover the other buy rounds, so 16, 19, 20. Obviously, kicks goals. Uh, could play fullback, but they've gone with young Hopewadi, who's probably a watch this week. Give him another week, see how he goes, and then he could be a bottom dollar downgrade option to cover the rest of the buys, which could be useful for some. But Ruben Garrick, centre wing option, best of the week. Dom Young on the chopping block, and the break even, the value there makes sense. Probably not as affected, with Swally getting suspended because he plays outside of Joey Manu on the right edge. But he is rocks and diamonds. So he's sort of already lost, I think, 45k last week in value. Um, so I think you can absolutely take the money, switch to Ruben Garrick, probably get more consistent outputs over the next month or so. The trap this week, and this was mind bending when I saw this, but Ronaldo Mulatalo is the most popular centre wing buy this week at the time of recording. The Sharks don't play round 16. Um, Nico Hines isn't there. They sort of seemed to struggle last week against the Eels without him. So it just doesn't make sense. The break even's up there with the average. So some people might say, well, if he averages close to 70 at 500k, it's value. But just I don't know. Maybe wait until after the buys if you want to get him as a end of year point of difference. But just still don't know why people are picking him. Jermaine Osako, so another Dolphin on the trap list. Oh, sorry, the slap list this week. Cut and paste what I've said about Max Black, Tom Flegler, Jaron Marshall-King. Onto the fullbacks, and so I've gone with Latrell Mitchell. So not complete hate for the Rabbitohs, with the other traps, Klamatangi, Cody Walker. But I guess out of those teams that we've identified with good Origin buy schedules, I think the clear and obvious choice at fullback is Latrell. We know what his upside is. We know it can be a bit volatile up and down, but even in his quieter games, he can get some sneaky Supercoach points in. So I think if you are looking to shore up that fullback spot, that Latrell is a good option this week. I've got Reece Walsh on the chopping block. Obviously, Category 1 concussion, so he got pulled from Origin. Because it was Category 1, he definitely won't play this weekend, and there is a chance he won't play in round 15, which means that round 16, he'll be back in the Origin side, you'd imagine. So he won't actually play for the Broncos for a good few weeks. So for that reason, I think you can, slide sideways to Latrell, get more points on field over the next few weeks, then absolutely do it. I've got Tamara Martin as a trap, so nice break even there, -44. Has been playing really well as the halfback for the Warriors, but Sean Johnson should be back next week, in which case you'd imagine he'll go back to the 6, and he'll sort of return to where he was in terms of his scoring. So obviously Warriors good run through the middle buy rounds. Um, has some value in that price, but I don't know if it's going to be long lived. So just a bit of a warning there. And the slaps, once again, I've gone with Dylan Edwards. Obviously withdrew with a bit of a quad injury, but funnily enough is named on the extended reserve for Penrith. I'd imagine they could probably do without him this week, but he is a chance of playing, and so in that case, he may not be worth a trade out if he's going to come back in. Admittedly, he'll probably slot straight back into the Origin team. They did want him at fullback, and obviously that was part of the plan that unravelled for New South Wales. Um, but yeah, I think hang on to Dylan Edwards. If you want another gun in the fullbacks, you can look at Latrell for the next few weeks. Obviously, if you've got Scott Drinkwater, for example, you hold him. Teddy's a bit of a trickier one because he's on the bye this week, but probably a hold because he has got some value. And as I said, I think Edwards will get back in the team, which means Teddy will play around 16. Um, and I think other than that, we've covered most bases there. So probably wrap the video up at this point. Obviously, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below the video. Give us a like if you enjoy the sort of analysis that we've got here. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.